Good afternoon, everyone. We're here today with an exclusive interview for Que Onda magazine with Mr. Julian Ramirez, candidate for the 248th District Criminal Court. How are you, Mr. Ramirez?
I'm doing great, Sergio. It's great to be with you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Before we get off, into some more serious issues or questions, tell us a little bit about yourself that perhaps the average person doesn't know. Something that's not on the flyer, something that perhaps you like to do, a hobby.
Well, Sergio, I grew up in the barrio in Rosenberg on the north side.
Yes.
And that has really shaped my life, And campaigning, especially in the east side, has really brought back that in my background to me, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Oh, yes. So you're basically saying that you grew up in the barrio in Rosenberg, and now that you're running and you're reconnecting with, it's kind of like your roots, would you say?
Very much so,
Yeah.
Sergio. As I meet with the good people over there, I see my aunts and my uncles and my cousins and my brothers and sisters, and as I walk the streets, knocking on doors, it feels like I'm walking the streets of the neighborhood that I grew up in, just on a larger scale.
Absolutely.
That's been a wonderful experience.
Well, I go back and visit the home I grew up in. It's a little shotgun house, and it keeps me very grounded and rooted. It just reconnects with values of who we are. So since you have connected with that essence of who you are, could you tell me what prompted you to run for the district court 248?
Well, Sergio, it comes down to public safety.
Okay.
I have worked in the criminal courts for more than 30 years, and so I know how things should operate there when they're functioning properly. And what I saw about a year ago was that our community was not as safe as it should be. And part of that, I think, has to do with decisions made by some of our judges, especially when we talk about bail decisions on our serious, violent criminal cases. When I found out that in this particular court, the 248th, a number of people had been murdered by defendants who had been released on multiple felony bonds, that means they've gotten out, done it again according to the police, gotten out again, and been rearrested, and then finally, they commit a violent crime, murder. That really disturbed me. Crime Stoppers has been keeping track of the number of people who have been murdered by defendants who have been released on multiple felony bonds. And at this point, in the last, since 2019, the number is up to 183 people, right, who have been murdered, according to the police, by defendants out on bond in multiple felony cases. And that figure astounded me because in my experience in the criminal justice system, that was a very, very rare occurrence. It was never this bad. And knowing that and understanding that 8 of those deaths had come out of the 248th District Court that I'm running for, that's really what decided it for me to run.
That's very important insight. As we know, the crime rate has spiked in all urban cities in America right after the pandemic, and this is very alarming. And I appreciate you addressing this issue as to certain judges that have released felons on multiple bonds, maybe low bonds, and they commit more violent offenses. And I think we can't say that it's all the judges, but it's some judges, and that is why it's important to target that area of perhaps an area that we need to improve on. Would you say that this is a problem with certain judges or all judges?
Well,
or the system, the bail bond system?
It is certainly a problem in the court that I'm running for, the 248.
Okay.
And one thing that I would like for our viewers to understand is that in our law book that speaks to the criminal cases, the number one objective, or the first one listed, is ensure public safety. And I think through some of the decisions they've made, our judges have not been ensuring our safety in the way that they should, and that bothered me.
And Would you say that this is perhaps the most critical element in reducing crime, or would you say the increase in law enforcement, or electing judges who have a strong sense of crime deterrence, law enforcement, and other perhaps deterrent programs, that it's a comprehensive approach?
The decisions the judges make are certainly part of the solution, I think, or should be part of the solution to our crime problem.
Right.
You can't do it alone. There are multiple pieces to it. You know, how we fund law enforcement, what kind of programs we have in place. But certainly when the judges are following the law and considering the safety of the community when they make their decisions, we should see improvement.
Another issue that's very important, and as we know, what recently happened, the tragedy in Uvalde, the killing of innocent children and teachers, 21, I believe. What is your position on increasing mental health resources? And if elected a judge, how would you approach someone that's a violent offender but has serious emotional issues?
Well, certainly the mental health issue is a large one in our society, and it needs to be addressed at different levels, not just through the courts. Unfortunately, many of the people that we see in court have serious mental health issues, and depending upon whether or not those individuals are violent or not, I think really guides our approach to how we handle those cases. The ones who are not violent, who really don't pose a threat to our community, we should have programs in place to address their needs and the issues that they have. The ones that are violent, well, again, we certainly would want to help them, but most important is that we act in a way that protects the community.
That's great. And being elected as the criminal judge, District Court 248, once elected as judge, what will be your number one priority?
My number one priority would be to get the docket down. The docket has been out of control recently, and my strong belief is that the way you get a docket down is you go to trial. You start trying those cases. And once attorneys and defendants and the state, the prosecutors see, oh, this judge is serious about going to trial, they will start to take care of their business and work the cases out. It's amazing how that can happen. And unfortunately, we haven't seen consistently that court has been trying cases to juries frequently.
One final question. Who sets the bond? Is it the magistrate or the judge? Because there's a perception or confusion out in the community that it is the judge who sets the bond, or it's the magistrate. And perhaps can you shed light on that?
Well, when a person comes into the system on a felony case, they must go before a magistrate if they haven't bonded out already within 48 hours, right? And the bond is reviewed by the magistrate. But ultimately, the responsibility is on the district court and county court judges to make sure the bond on a case, or the bail, I should say, is appropriate for that case.
For that offense.
Magistrates do play a role, but the important thing we need to understand is that the district court judges are the one who decide who the magistrates are.
Okay.
The magistrates are unelected. Right?
Yes.
The district court judges are elected.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that we elect district court judges who are going to select magistrates who will make good decisions.
Okay, thank you. That's very good enlightenment for us members of the community who do not understand that process. But as we finalize this, what makes you the most qualified candidate for this position?
Well, I'll tell you, I have a lot of experience in criminal court. I started at the DA's office and was there for 27 years. While I was there, I tried more than 150 first chair felony jury trials. That means I was the lead prosecutor. I tried hundreds of other cases in the courts as well. And we're talking about everything ranging from capital murder cases where we were asking for the death penalty and murder cases all the way down to DWIs. Any kind of case you can imagine, I've tried it. So I'll know how to handle our trials right off the bat. Additionally, I worked in specialized divisions, such as gang crimes. I worked in the public integrity section where we investigated and prosecuted public officials accused of wrongdoing. I was in fact the chief of that division for a while. I also worked in the civil rights division where we investigated and prosecuted allegations of excessive force on the part of law enforcement and jailers. Those last two positions were positions of great trust and responsibility. And the fact that they selected me to hold those positions show that they had a lot of confidence in my judgment and ability to do the work. And so all of this experience, and I should add as well that I have practiced before dozens of judges in my career. And so I've seen what works and what doesn't work. And I'll be able to bring that experience if I am fortunate enough to be elected to serve as a judge.
Well, your experience is broad and vast and very important. Can you share with the audience, who is your favorite football team?
Well, my favorite football team is the Texas Longhorns, Hook 'em Horns. That's my alma mater. That's where I went to undergraduate and got my law degree from there as well.
Thank you. Once again, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.